Did you know in Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King, local New Zealanders filled in as extras for this movie? In fact, several hundreds of New Zealand army members were brought in to provide extras for the battle at the Black Gate. They were apparently so enthusiastic during the battle scenes that they kept breaking the wooden swords and spears they were given. The live-action Rohan army was also made up of several hundred New Zealander extras, all of whom responded to an open casting call for horseback riders. Many of them were women, who had to perform as male riders. In the movie, the only woman in the Rohirrim huge assault is Eowyn. But did you know in Spider-Man 3, it was originally going to have a much darker ending? They wanted to have it so that when the symbiote separates from Eddie, it would reveal a smoking skeleton to show it had completely bonded with Eddie. The skull was made to represent Venom's head, and the bones were created. They decided to change this after seeing how terrified kids were in the test audience. Did you know in The Matrix Reloaded, the scene involving disabling a power grid by Carrie-Anne Moss's Trinity had legitimate hacking in action? She ran Nmap, a widely used freeware hacking tool that sends packets to a machine or network of machines in an attempt to determine what services are running. Essentially, an Nmap port scan functions as a way to figure out whether a system has any vulnerabilities to exploit. This is exactly how Trinity used it too, as her computer clearly shows Nmap being run against the IP address 10.2.2.2 and finding open port number 22. She then summoned a program called Schnook, which began attempting to exploit SSHV1 CRC32, an exploit that was first uncovered in February 2001 by security analyst Michael Zalewski. Despite some errors, such as changing the text of Nmap's output to fit the screen better, hackers praised this scene for getting the hacking right. Did you know in Frozen, Queen Elsa was originally intended to be the villain of the story? However, when the character's major song, Let It Go, was played for the producers, it became clear that the song was not only attractive, but its themes of personal empowerment and self-acceptance were too positive for a villain to express. As a result, it was decided that the story had to be rewritten in order to portray Elsa as a victim who struggled to control her powers with Anna's assistance after realizing that they were causing harm. Did you know in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, the character Fenrir Greyback is a reference to Fenrir the Wolf in Nordic mythology? In that mythology, Fenrir bit the arm off Tyr and was involved in Odin's death, triggering Ragnarok. The movie shares some similarities with that myth. In the Seven Harry scene, Bill Weasley remarked about how he got his face scarred by Fenrir, just like Tyr's arm was bitten. Moreover, in the small flashback of Dumbledore's murder, Fenrir was amongst the Death Eaters involved, similar to Odin's death. Did you know in Ant-Man and the Wasp? Ghost isn't actually evil. She's simply desperate since her powers are killing her, and she's trying to do everything she can to survive. Also, her father, Elias Starr, Egghead, is definitely a villain in the comics. Meanwhile, his one scene in this film is essentially based off him trying to save his wife and daughter instead of something nefarious. Did you know in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, there are actually a couple different surprise role reprisals? One comes in the form of Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery, which he played as in a Marvel one-shot. Mark Ruffalo also appears, but he isn't in his green form at all anymore. On top of that, Emil Blonsky also reprises his role from The Incredible Hulk, and the appearance is to lead up to She-Hulk show. Did you know in Captain America, the First Avenger, a reference to the first ever Captain America comic book is made? Before joining the fight and becoming the hero he is, Steve Rogers would travel through the United States and bring cheer and hope to people by performing in a USO show. During the show, Captain America would punch a man dressed as Adolf Hitler, which is a direct reference to the first Captain America comic book, which had that image as the cover. This image has since become synonymous with Captain America and a staple for his character. But